Wow. This morning I want to talk about, as you said, nonviolence for the violent. I chose this title because we all have violence within us. To recognize our inner violence is one of the hardest things we must do if we are to become nonviolent. I once tried to eradicate violence from my heart, but when I took a long look at all the violence and rage within me, I found I had a tremendous amount of work to do. If we can't deal with our own personal violence, how can we expect to deal with the violence of nations? Let's turn then to what Jesus has to say about nonviolence. He says this: "You've heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist one who is an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone sues you for your outer garment, give your undergarment as well. And if one of the occupation troops forces you to carry his pack 1 mile, carry it 2. Many otherwise devout Christians simply dismiss Jesus' teachings about nonviolence out of hand as impractical idealism. And with good reason. Turn the other cheek has come to imply a doormat-like quality that has made the Christian way seem cowardly and complicit in the face of injustice. Resist not evil seems to break the back of all opposition to evil and to counsel submission. Going the second mile has become a platitude, meaning nothing else than extend yourself, and encourages collaboration with the oppressor. Jesus' teaching, viewed this way, is impractical, masochistic, and even suicidal. An invitation to bullies and spouse batterers to wipe up the floor with their supine Christian victims. Jesus never displayed that kind of passivity. Whatever the source of the misunderstanding, such distortions are clearly neither in Jesus or his teaching. The normal or natural reaction to being slapped, sued, or forced to carry a soldier's pack was irritation, outrage, or violence. The structure of violence is quite simple. Do unto others as they have done unto you. Consequently, we always mirror our opponent and become the very thing that we hate. Jesus offers a third way, one which marks an historic mutation in human development: the revolt against the principle of natural selection. With Jesus, a way emerges by which evil can be opposed without being mirrored and engaged without capitulation. Jesus counsels resistance, but without violence. The Greek word translated resist in Matthew 5 is antistenai. Stand. So anti, against, stand. What the translators have overlooked is that antistenai is most often used in the Greek version of the Old Testament as a technical term for warfare. It describes the way opposing armies would march toward each other until their ranks collided in a cacophony of steel against steel, disemboweling each other until one of the lines broke and fled. This was called taking a stand. This is not the tame little word being used. This is the real word. War. Ephesians 6 uses precisely this imagery. Quote, put on the whole armor of God so that you may be able to withstand, anti-stenai, on that evil day, and having done everything, to stand firm, stenai. In short, anti-stenai means more here than simply to resist evil. It means to resist violently, to revolt, to rebel, to engage in an armed insurrection, as was Barabbas, same word used. So when Jesus says, do not anti-stenai one who is evil, he is telling us not to resist evil with violence. King James of England was profoundly disturbed during the Protestant Reformation that Presbyterians from Geneva were smuggling copies of the Geneva Bible into England. It's all the Presbyterians' fault. He condemned the marginal notes as seditious, dangerous, and traitorous for endorsing the right to overthrow a tyrant. The king was not amused. Therefore, he authorized a new translation, the Authorized Version. King James Bible was written with part of its intention to prevent insurrection. Therefore, he authorized a new translation that would make clear that there were only two alternatives, flight and fight. And if Jesus says, do not resist one who is evil, it sounds like he's saying, don't fight, don't fight, flight. I hope that's clear.
It is.
I'll work on it all morning and see what happens. Thus, Jesus is made to authorize monarchical absolutism. Submission to the powers that be, the king insists, is the will of God. And most translators have meekly followed this path until this very day. Jesus is not telling us to submit to evil, but to refuse to oppose it on its own terms. He is urging us to transcend both passivity and violence by finding a third way, one that is at once assertive and yet nonviolent. The three examples that follow confirm this reading.